So peace and blessings and namaste to all light warriors, workers, and everything in between. It is I, Sophie, today. And last night, I know you've been feeling this amazing new moon energy. I know you've had to feel it. Last night, I spent a lot of time with Shiva. Okay. And for those of you who are doing ancestral work, for those of you who are assisting the Elohim and the angelic realms in their ascension process, you will be very honored to know that three, okay, from the old ancient Hindu pantheons have purified their light and have ascended. Okay. And so we're now having three new archangels and ascended masters to assist humanity on their evolutionary journey. These three have done an amazing job, throughout eons, okay? And they have just made it. They made it out of here. They are in their sovereignty. And, Shiva brought them to me, last night, and the council, nobody at the councils had anything negative to say about these three things. So we're watching different levels of consciousness ascend to higher levels. It's not just humanity, okay? Where angels are ascending to archangels are ascending to sovereign divinity. Like, everybody's going through ascension process. We're just on multiple different planes of existence simultaneously. So last night, three of them went there. That's a huge, huge win, okay, for the light. And I just wanted to share that with you. Also, make sure before I get started to support our divine feminine sister by purchasing your dragon lotus mugs, okay? And don't just leave them sitting in the cart either. And leave them sitting in the cart. You know who I'm talking about. Okay, get your mugs, support her. That description, that link is in the description box, and we're going to get this going. All right. The very next update for y'all is, yes, I did get the car. I did get the Infinity. There's pros and cons to the beautiful vehicle. Okay. And the pros is, that it only costs $1,000. It's already paid for, and so that expense, I don't have any more car notes or anything like that. Okay. And it comes with all the bells and whistles, but the cons. Okay, there's always pros and cons now. The cons is it only takes premium gas and it has a huge engine. All right, so what that means to you guys is I'm going to be doing a lot of walking unless it just goes back and forth to work because I can't deal with it right now. All right, so let's get into today's transmission. So last night as I was dealing with Shiva, okay, he brought to my attention the Hawkins scale of consciousness, right? And as I was reading through it, now I ran across this concept, I'm going to say maybe around 2019, 2018, somewhere around there. There was a young YouTuber that I used to follow, that I was following for a while. A young guy, I cannot remember the name of his channel, but he was a white guy and he always had notes behind him. Like, he would have an easel and he would have like these white giant pieces of paper, and he would write down things, and he kind of taught you about the Hawkins scale of consciousness. Okay. And I looked at it, I observed it, but I never really gave it much thought. I never gave it any thought other than that. I mean, it seemed like it was a good idea. We were just going to roll with it. Well, last night, I was prompted to do a transmission concerning the Hawkins scale of consciousness, okay, from the higher realms. Okay. And as he was showing me this, I was hearing him say, what does it remind you of? What does it remind you of? Okay. And I realized that some of these key principles were taken from the ancient Hindu scale of consciousness, okay, but they were revamped a lot, and some of them are even a little bit contradictory. So it's very interesting to go through this scale of consciousness and point out some of the similarities and some of the differences, okay? And I'm only doing this because I'm being told that I have to bring this to your awareness, all right? It is up to you to figure out what it is that you're going to resonate with, but I am just going to point out some of these things. All right, so now, the Hawkins scale of consciousness, I have it up here so you can see it. where it starts with enlightenment, which is the same, with the 14 lokas, or the Hindu scale of consciousness, the 14 worlds, the seven upper worlds and the seven lower worlds, which we still consider as the seven up consciousness, higher consciousness, and seven lower consciousness. So we have enlightenment, we have peace, joy, love, reason, acceptance, willingness, neutrality, courage, pride, anger, desire, fear, grief, apathy, guilt, and shame. All right. And they're going from ascending to the lower, to descending, till the lowest state of consciousness was considered shame or guilt. All right. Now, what you need to pay attention to with this is where it is in our ancient writings was only 14. In the new scale, it is 17. So there's 3 more in here. So what are these 3 designed to do? Okay. So we're going to keep on going. I'm going to show you now. All right. So now, Hawkins versus Hinduism. All right, what we see in the Hindu levels of consciousness, we have illumination, we have divine sight, we have divine love, we have direct recognition, willpower, reason, memory, fear and lust, raging anger, retaliation, jealousy, prolonged confusion, selfishness, consciencelessness, and malice and murder. Okay, but what you'll see with the Hawkins version is there's not a lot there that deals with I guess the actions, or the examples of what that state of consciousness is designed to do. Okay, so it's not a lot that is really in your face about it. That's the differences between it. And I can see some other differences too, when it comes down to one versus the other. But let's wait it out. Let's go to the next slide so you can see. All right, now, here's the things that they have in common, okay? And this is important for you. Pay very close attention. What they have in common is, with the Hindu, illumination, Hawkins, enlightenment, okay? Synonymous. Hindu says divine sight, which is dealing with your intuition. Hawkins doesn't have that. Hinduism has divine love. Hawkins only has love. Okay, Hindu has direct recognition. Hawkins has acceptance. Okay, Hindu has willpower. Hawkins has willingness. They both have reason. The Hindu has memory, but there's nothing included in the memory for the Hawkins. Hindu lumps fear and lust as the exact same vibration. So there's no hierarchy to that, okay? Someone that is operating in the state of fear is equal to someone that is operating in the state of lust. But in the Hawkins, they are separate, okay? And they removed the term lust and replaced it with desire. I guess the term lust becomes a little bit too scary, too spooky for people, okay? Then we have rage and anger in the Hindu, and we only have anger in the Hawkins. We have jealousy in the Hindu. We don't have anything in the Hawkins concerning jealousy. So I slid pride in there because pride can lead to jealousy. So I'm hoping that it fits. I don't know. We have prolonged confusion in the Hinduism. In Hinduism, we don't have anything to match that in Hawkins. Okay. We have selfishness in Hinduism, but we don't have anything that matches that in Hawkins. We have consciencelessness in Hindu. And in the Hawkins, I slid apathy in there, okay, because to me, there are a lot of similarities. If you don't have a conscience, you can be considered apathetic because you're void of, emotions. You're void of these things. So I put apathy as possibly a match from the Hawkins. And in the Hindu, it was murder and malice. And then the Hawkins has none of those, okay? So the discrepancies when it comes down to the Hawkins scale is they have added peace and joy, neutrality, courage, grief, guilt, and shame. Okay, now, but when you relate it to the Hindu version of it, peace and joy would probably naturally align with divine love or enlightenment, however you want to spend it. There's no right and wrong with that one, okay? So we would take those two and sum it up there, okay? Courage would be linked to what we would consider willpower, okay? You can have a desire to do something. You can have an aspiration to do something, but it takes courage to get it done. It takes willpower. It takes personal power to think that you're good enough. to feel like you're good enough, to take that risk, that a lot of people are too afraid to take. Okay, so I link that with that. And then the last three, grief, guilt, and shame, aren't really compatible with any of the ones with the Hindu. All right, so the question that it caused me to ask myself was, where is the divine in this? Okay, because when you're dealing with the Hawkins scale, what I noticed that anything that is dealing with the divine, having the ability to assist or our higher selves or connection with source, is completely removed. All right, as if this is designed for you to be able to reach or accomplish these things, on your own. Which, let's face it, is very, very, very difficult in the 3D realm compression. Okay, so we're always looking to the divine. We need the divine support, but in the Hawkins, the divine is completely missing. And the certain things that come along with the divine, such as divine love or divine sight, your intuition, your third eye, things that connect you to higher levels of consciousness, is completely missing in a Hawkins. Okay, illumination is a little bit different than enlightenment. Okay, some can consider those synonymous. Yeah, you can. But when I think of illumination, I'm thinking of something that is being brought to your awareness. Okay, that is shining. Okay, that is causing a change in you. When enlightenment, I guess, could be considered similar, but you can be enlightened about a subject just by experiencing it or viewing it. Okay, whereas when something is illuminated, it's pushed upon you. Okay, that's just the way that I interpret it, but it might not be that much of a big difference. All right, when it comes down to it, but I'm just showing you that when it comes down to the Hawkins scale versus the ancient Hindu scale, that what is completely missing from it is divinity, is your connection to the divine. It's not there. Okay, so one has to start thinking. All right, so let's go. Now, in the Hindu principles versus Hawkins, I briefly went over this. Okay, divine sight is considered in the Hindu levels of consciousness, and this is the ability to use intuition or divine knowing through tapping into higher states of consciousness. It's not in the Hawkins scale. Okay, memory, that is in the Hindu scale, the ability to self-reflect and learn from one's past mistakes, which is very necessary for learning and evolution, but it's not mentioned in the Hawkins scale at all. Confusion, these are states of consciousness. Okay, this is the state of your mind. The ability to think clearly or make righteous decisions. Once again, that is removed from the Hawkins scale. Okay, but confusion is a state of consciousness that many of us experience. Okay, so it also allows you the opportunity to know or to self-reflect and see why I can't have why I can't make righteous decisions, why there is a fog, why I'm confusing right or wrong, up and down, left or right. See, the Hindu principles, they point these things out to you. The Hawkins scale does not. Okay, now we also have selfishness. What is selfishness? Only concern with oneself, lacking consideration of others. Once again, the Hawkins does not include selfishness in it. All right. Now, we also have consciencelessness, which is unscrupulous or ruthless behavior, no sense of right or wrong, no morality. All right. Now, we can say that that could be equivalent to what Hawkins would say apathy is, but understand that in the Hawkins scale, apathy is third from the bottom, not the bottom. All right. Then we have malice and murder, ill intention or killing of one's spirit or physical body. When we come about somebody that is dealing in malice or malicious behavior, it is murder. It does not have to be a physical act to be perceived as murder. It could be the killing of one's dreams. It could be the killing of one's spirit. It could be the killing of one's support, one morality. Okay. When somebody is angry or they hate you, and this was even taught by our ancestors, hate is an act of murder. All right. So these are pointed out in the Hindu scales of consciousness, but they're not identified in the Hawkins scale of consciousness. So you have to ask yourself why. Okay, why is this happening? So let's keep going. Now, apathy describes an absence of feeling, or emotion. This indifference can affect your motivation and leave you feeling detached from the entire world, okay? So when somebody's in a state of apathy, what we are dealing with is pretty much a shell. It's like the Walking Dead, okay? They're indifferent to everything, of their emotions, their morality, their ethics, decisions, what's going on around them, what other people are feeling or what other people are concerning. So one could consider this like the Walking Dead, all right? The state of apathy is pretty much a direct opposite of love. And I know some of you are thinking hate is, but that's not true, okay? Because hate is just the opposite polarity of love, whereas apathy is its actual opposite, okay? Because you're not feeling anything. Now, the Hawkins lowest states imply apathy, guilt, and then shame being at the bottom, okay? And the Hindu lowest state says selfishness, consciencelessness, and malice and murder as the lowest states. Now, I had to ask myself, how can one feel guilt or shame if one is apathetic? Okay? So it became a bit of a, I don't know, conundrum when I was looking at it. It was a little bit contradictory because you can't have guilt and shame as the lowest vibration, okay, when those are still the ability to express emotion, okay? There's still an emotional response, whereas apathy is no emotion, okay? So it wouldn't make sense that guilt and shame lies at the bottom of the pole and not apathy. All right, so this was something that, I was discussing with the divine last night. Like, I don't understand how this is really making sense. All right. Now, when you are in a state of apathy and you are indifferent to everything and you are indifferent to your emotions, it is very easy to fall into states of malice and murder. Okay, things of that nature, because it's not going to affect you. An apathetic person can have very strong narcissistic traits. Okay, we already understand that, right? So that's where I was with this, trying to figure out the pros and cons of the Hindu versus the New Age. All right, we're always fighting with the New Age, right? Not all the time though. Something's good. Okay, now let's do the definition of what guilt and shame is, okay, to help us put things in perspective here. Guilt describes a sense of regret or responsibility that relates to actions taken. Now, that is coming from good therapy, okay? Now, it's also from Psychology Today, is described as self-conscious emotion involving reflection on oneself. Okay, so typically when somebody is in a state of guilt, they are reflecting or in a remorseful state of consciousness or a regretful state of consciousness by some action that they themselves have done. Okay, now also shame is considered a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. Okay, shame, and that's the regular dictionary version. Shame also can be defined as a feeling of embarrassment or humiliation that arises in relation to the perception of having done something dishonorable, immoral, or improper. Okay, that comes from verywellmind.org. All right, so all of these are therapy websites that are teaching you what guilt and what shame is. All right, now, what they both were designed to do in your walk is that they are temporary emotions that are designed to identify key areas of consciousness that needs developing in an effort of reconciliation. Okay, now, does this mean that you're supposed to live in these states of consciousness? Absolutely not. All right. Does it mean that it's wrong to experience this? Also, absolutely not. All right. Because these things are designed for you and your self-reflection. Okay. In other words, if I am walking down the street and I push an old lady in the middle of the street and she gets hit, should I not feel guilty about that? Because it is the feeling of guilt that causes for repentance. okay, of causing you to see what your actions have done. All right. If I did the same thing and other people saw it, should I not be ashamed about my actions? Same thing, okay? If it's something dishonorable, if it's something that is immoral, yes, I need to feel these things, okay? Because when I feel these things, it not only lets me know that I am human, that I can feel, that I am in tune with my emotions, but it's also designed for corrective action. All right. So could you imagine going to a legal system, bringing a charge against somebody that committed a crime to you, and them not wanting to tell them that they are guilty because it's a low vibration? Do you understand? It's the way that things are wording. Now, I have told you guys many, many times, if you don't have the ability to think for yourself, someone will do the thinking for you. Okay, so I always push for you guys for independent thought. Don't just keep repeating what you hear. Dissect the things that you are hearing, because all the time, it's not what's being said that can expose an intention. Sometimes it's not what's being, it's being what's not said. Sorry, I scrambled that all around. It's what's not being said that can expose an intention. Okay, so we already saw that we removed divinity and the connection that we have with God, with source, from this completely. Okay, and number two, we're targeting things that were designed to make you feel remorseful or regretful, so that you can correct your actions, as being branded as low vibrations. They're not low vibrations. Okay, they're emotions. Okay, even the Lord's repented. Okay, and in order for someone to repent, or order for somebody to do self-reflection, or even want to take a reconciliational stance about something, you're going to either feel guilty about something that you've done, or maybe feel ashamed about something that you've done. But these are supposed to be transmuted to positivity, to positive corrective action. But if you brand them as negative, pay attention. Okay, if you brand them as negative or lower states, then you avoid this altogether, which makes you, or places you in a position of becoming apathetic. All right, or not willing to change, not willing to grow, not really willing to reconcile. All right, now you cannot, on the flip side of this, you cannot live in a state of guilt. You cannot live in a state of shame. You are going to experience it. You are going to correct it. You are going to reconcile it. And then you're going to keep moving up. All right. Now, here's some ways that guilt and shame can work against your favor. If other people are pushing it on you, okay? If other people are making you feel guilty or making you feel ashamed, and you are innocent, all right, that's a negative vibration, okay? And people like to do that. You know it, I know it, we all know it. That would be considered a negative vibration. That would be considered a lower state of consciousness. If you are harnessing somebody else's projection of guilt or shame onto you, and you've done nothing, yeah, you need to go ahead and let that go. But if you are doing something or in immoral behavior that is hurting your brothers and sisters, okay, hurting this earth, hurting even your own body, these two emotions are designed for you to correct it. All right, and they are temporary. All right, we don't live in it once again, so don't come for me with that. Okay, I'm not saying living in that state of vibration. I'm saying that guilt and shame is part of a natural emotional experience, just like anger, just like all of your emotions. Okay, all right, so let's keep going. Again, it's not what's being said, it's what is not being said. Okay, so let's go with what is not being said with the Hawkins scale, the New Age scale. Okay, the Hawkins scale removes any notion of divinity and limits consciousness to a single state of emotions without any application. Okay, so in other words, it's not telling you what these negative states of consciousness will have you doing or have you believing, or what type of state, how it affects you mentally, how it affects your actions. It doesn't name those things, okay? It just names a bunch of emotions. So it removes the divinity out of it and also removes the consequences. The Hawkins scale teaches that guilt and shame are the lowest vibration when apathy truly is, okay? Because if you are feeling guilty, if you are feeling shameful, then you can't be apathetic. Okay, it is the realm of apathy that removes these things from you and allows you to operate any kind of way that you want and feeling that there is no consequences. But we understand that there's always consequences, right? Light warriors, there's always consequences. All right. What else does the Hawkins scale do? It teaches that remorse is a low vibration when in actuality it is designed to assist in clarity. Once again, we already went through that. That's what guilt and shame is. I don't mind if I do something wrong and I feel guilty about it. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh my God, I'm in such a low vibrational state. I'm going to be like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. Let me go ahead and correct this situation. And this is how we continue to ascend. Okay, this is how we actually transfer. We hear this phrase all the time, from dark to light. How do you get there? Or is this just a saying? Okay, because if it's just a saying, then okay, have fun with it. All right, but if there is a meaning behind it, then you will understand that these guilt and shame is that dark going into that light. All right, this is how we make things applicable to us in our journey. All right. The Hawkins scale also teaches us not to process emotions for growth, but rather to shun or ignore them. And this attitude produces narcissism and apathy. Yes, it does. If I am telling you that guilt and shame is the lowest vibration of consciousness, then what you're naturally going to process is, I don't need to be in guilt or shame. I don't need to feel guilt or shame. That's only applicable if somebody else is projecting it onto you. But if it's something that you yourself are doing continually to yourself, to others, to the divine, then you're supposed to be, or you should be feeling some type of shame. You should be feeling some type of guilt for hurting somebody. And that should be redirecting your intentions. You should be evolving from it, okay? All things work well for us. Let's keep going. The Hawkins scale does not include behavioral patterns necessary to invoke change, i.e. memory, consciousness, and intuition. Okay, these things are completely removed. All right, in the New Age. Now, in the ancients, these were very key principles. Why? Number one, your memory is important. Okay, because if you do not remember your past actions and the consequences of those actions, you're doomed to do what? Repeat the same patterns over and over and over again. So we're always reminded of ourselves, of the things that we have done, the things that we have learned, the things that we are learning, okay? This gets you out of the paradoxes and the karmic patterns, all right? So the Hindu states of consciousness teaches you that it is important, your memory is important, okay? It is important to remember these things. It's important to learn from your mistakes, okay? Consciousness is also important in the Hindu scale, okay? We all need to have a conscience about something. All right. You need to be able to discern what is right or wrong. You need to be able to discern whether or not something is healthy for you or it's unhealthy for you. If your behavior is healthy for others or if it's unhealthy for others. Okay. So your consciousness serves as a very strong guide with your intuition in the Hindu versions of states of consciousness. Okay. Intuition and divine knowing coming from higher realms that assist in your soul's evolutionary journey is very prevalent in the Hindu states of consciousness, but is completely dismissed in the New Age Hawkins scale. Okay, so yeah, we're seeing some discrepancies, all right, and what is not being said, all right, and kind of being replaced with just simple everyday emotions like, oh, okay, we're just going to do this. All right. No, it takes some work to get here. Okay. Your intuition needs to be on point. Your discernment needs to be on point. If not, you're going to find yourself in repeated patterns. Okay, let's keep going. The Hawkins scale does not leave room for accountability. Once again, if you are being told to shun guilt, to shun shame, and none of those things don't even matter, they're lower states of consciousness, then what is holding you accountable to your actions? Or are we not supposed to be held accountable anymore? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't fit into this new world. I don't fit. I have very ancient wisdom, ancient knowledge, okay, that has kept my butt out of the fire for some time now. Okay, so I want to be held accountable for my actions. This is part of my growth. All right. And as the divine continues to do this, when I do something wrong, I feel it right away. And when I feel it, I correct it. Okay, if I'm ashamed of my behavior, if I'm embarrassed by my behavior, guess what? I don't repeat it. But if you don't feel guilt, if you don't feel ashamed of anything, guess what you're going to do? Continue to repeat it. Do you understand where I'm going with this? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, now, do y'all remember in 2002, this movie that came out? It was called Equilibrium, and it's not the same type of equilibrium that I talk about, of balancing oneself, heart and mind, masculine and feminine, you know, to be complete. You know what I'm saying? To balance your logic with your emotional side, to balance your heart with your logical thinking, you know, so that you can keep yourself out of trouble. Well, in Equilibrium, they were talking about a future. And in this futuristic world, guess what we are void of? Emotions. Exactly. Okay, I'm going to read it to you. In a futuristic world, a regime has eliminated war by suppressing emotions. Okay, so in an effort to keep the division from happening and the wars to keep going, they decided we have to remove books, we have to remove art, and music was strictly forbidden, and feeling is a crime punishable by death. Okay, they put this out in 2002. All right, cleric John Preston is a top-ranking government agent responsible for destroying those who resist these rules. When he misses a dose of prosium, which is a mind-altering drug that hinders emotion, pay attention, that hinders emotion, Preston, who has been trained to enforce strict laws of the new regime, suddenly becomes the one overthrowing it. Okay, he missed his dosage, and I remember in the movie he found a family that was underground that was not taking these drugs, and they were still studying, and they still loved each other. They expressed emotion with each other, heartache, pain, all of that stuff, and instead of turning them in, he chose not to. Okay, so what I am saying to you is we are on the track of doing this. Okay, things that are being introduced to you are being introduced to you very, very subtly. Okay, it's the craftiness of the serpent. All right, the craftiness. When you look at the scale, it looks good. You know what I mean? It does not look like there's anything wrong with it, okay? Until you start actually trying to use it to apply principles to your life, then you realize things are missing there. And when you cross-reference it to what we had, you know, and understanding and the examples that are given so that you will shun certain behaviors, that's missing with it too. And it's slowly, carefully showing you that some of the things that you are feeling, that you're supposed to feel naturally, is somehow dangerous or evil to you. Okay? Pay attention to this, because I told you all, in this realm of existence, okay, your free will cannot be overthrown without your permission. So certain beings who are trying to usher in this new world order, okay, the NWO, they have to give you the truth so that you willingly sign your rights over. All right. In 2002, they were teaching you and showing you exactly where this realm was headed. And now we have everybody going out and pushing that guilt and shame, the transformative energies, transformative emotions are the lowest states of consciousness for you. The two things that are designed to correct your behavior are the two things that are evil and in opposition to you. Again, it's only evil and in opposition if you remain in these states of consciousness. Okay? It's only evil and in opposition if these states are being projected onto you and you're innocent. But guess what? If that is the case, you're not going to live in those states anyway. You're not even going to process that anyway, because you're going to realize I'm not the problem. Somebody else is, okay? So you're not even going to live in those states, okay? Even if you are living in a state of guilt or living in a state of shame, a psychologist is going to want to get to the root of that, okay? And when you're talking to a psychologist and you're living in a state of shame or guilt, once that is unearthed in you, once it is dug up in you, you can heal and evolve from it. You're no longer remaining in that state. However, if you are teaching that these states are lower level of consciousness or somehow beneath you, you're not even going to seek the help you need. Are you understanding what I'm saying? I just wanted to show you some of these different principles, as the divine was showing them to me last night. And I tell you, anything that I learn new, I'm always going to share with you. We are here to grow together. All right. And I hope you're just considering what it is that I am saying about this and paying attention to the very, very subtle changes that are happening, the subtle nuances that are transforming the way that you think, transforming the way that you think about your emotions, transforming the way that you're thinking about your evolutionary processes. Okay, it's unhealthy for you. Apathy is the lowest vibrational state of consciousness. Apathy is. Okay, because in apathy, a state of apathy, anything goes, and there is no consciousness. Okay, there is no consciousness. There is no right or wrong. There is only indifference. And this is where a lot of your serial killers live. So you tell me, are they going around murdering people because they feel ashamed? Or are they going around murdering and killing and causing all type of havoc because they don't have any feelings one way or the other against it? Okay, I'm just wanting to help you guys evolve. Okay, that's all I have for you. I am Sophie. I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Bye.